Okay, we were just talking about false narratives, which leads us quite smoothly into our top headline. And this is a big headline because apparently, if you can believe it, a United States Congresswoman was a victim of a racist incident inside the Capitol building. I mean, you really can't go anywhere these days to escape from racism, can you? It's everywhere. So here's Democratic Representative Barbara Lee last night. Listen.
These are not little kinks, first of all. Racism, institutional racism, is in the DNA of this country. When you look at what has taken place, look at our Native Americans, the genocide of Native Americans. When you look at what is taking place as it relates to African Americans, the 250 years plus of enslaving African Americans, and then you look at the disparities now in our community in terms of health care, unemployment, the wealth gap, housing. You can't tell me that systemic racism does not exist. It's not just a little kink.
Okay, I do want to cut that off just for a second. We haven't gotten to her personal story of racist victimization yet, and it's a doozy. So we'll get there in a second. But we have to note that the preamble she offers here about systemic racism is totally false. Speaking again of leftist premises, that are false, we hear this familiar trope about the genocide of Native Americans. There was no genocide of Native Americans. We are the only country in the world that would invent a genocide that we perpetrated. Okay, like our modern fables of American history are all centered around making us the bad guys. Our new sort of foundational myths are all centered around making us the bad guys, and that's the exact opposite of how these myths and fables usually work. But we're the most self-loathing society that's ever existed on Earth. It's a sickness. And that's where you get this Native American genocide thing. European settlers and later Americans fought wars against the Indians. These wars lasted for many, many years. These were wars with lots of hostility on both sides. It was a war, it was a battle, many, many battles, hundreds of years really. It was a series of battles. And that's it. It wasn't like one war. It wasn't a constant state of all-out war all over the country. All over the continent, rather. But this land was conquered partly through a series of battles over many years. That's not a genocide. That's how a land is conquered, fair and square. It's how the native tribes conquered it themselves, and then it's how they themselves were conquered. And also, besides, more Indians died by disease than anything else, and that also is not a genocide. These were not biological weapons. They weren't dropping bombs or whatever. This is not that. They weren't making viruses in a lab in Wuhan. A lot of this was happening before the germ theory of disease had been fully devised anyway. So it's not a genocide. All right. And speaking of things, so that didn't happen. But speaking of things that also didn't happen, let's continue.
Secondly, you have personal racism, which is hard to address, but I'll give you one little story that shows you why we need to understand that. I don't think she really understands racism. I was walking from the House building on Capitol Hill to the Capitol, and a white guy, stopped me and told me I could not get into the members' elevator. And we have pens, and I was going to vote. And he blocked me from getting into the elevator and told me I was not a member of Congress and it was for members only. I said, "Sir, I'm a member of Congress." And I showed him my pen, and he said, "Whose pen did you steal?" Now, this is an example of what personal racism is and how people of color constantly have to deal with this each and every day. But systemic racism is in the policies of this country, and just look at what they're trying to do in terms of eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're trying to not allow for an equal and level playing field, and so it's a very dangerous position that she has. She's clueless.
Well, that's a shame, and I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, Congresswoman. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Now, of course, Caitlin Collins, the anchor, just sits there staring blankly and doesn't ask any follow-up questions at all. It's almost like she knows the story is completely made up, so she doesn't want to pry. Because actually, if you believed it, then you'd have a lot of questions. Like, who was this random white guy blocking the elevator? Like, just a guy was there? Was it a security guard? And if it was a security guard, did you report this incident to his superiors? Is the guy fired? And if he's a security guard when he works there, how could he not recognize you and know that you're a representative and I mean, was this his first day on the job? And if it was he stopping every non-white member of Congress who walked by? Like, did he not know? Is this a security guard working on Capitol Hill who is not aware that non-white people are also representatives? Was this a security guard who came here in a time portal from the year 1803 and just was unfamiliar with the concept of non-white congressional representatives? I mean, we've had black people in Congress since like 1870. Okay, so this guy I guess he came from before that. This is he came in a time machine or maybe the guy's like 200 years old. He's a 200-year-old rookie security guard who was looking for a change of career later in life. And he got to Congress and he looked around and he said, what's going on here? Maybe it wasn't a security guard. Was it a staffer? Did some white staffer go up to a black congresswoman and accuse her of stealing her pin? Is that it? So this is someone who just decided randomly out of nowhere to completely nuke their own future political career? Did some staffer decide to commit a suicide bombing of his own career? Because that seems very strange. Or was it another member of Congress? And if so, who? Are we supposed to believe that Barbara Lee was accosted by some racist congressman and what, through her abiding sense of mercy, she's decided to not tell us the guy's name? Really? Is that what we're supposed to believe? So a white Republican racist congressman accosted her, but she's not going to tell us who. She's, I don't want to get the guy in trouble. Right. Are you one of the millions of American men and women dealing with premature hair loss? Maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it runs in the family. Well, you can start 2024 off the right way with a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects, unwanted chemicals, and no need for a prescription. ProVia uses a safe, natural ingredient called Procapil to effectively target the three main causes of premature hair thinning and loss by supporting healthy scalp circulation, the delivery of nourishing nutrients, and healthy hair follicle anchoring to your scalp. ProVia guarantees more hair on your head than in the shower or on your comb, and it's effective for men and women of any age and safe on colored, treated, and styled hair. It's that easy. And right now, new customers save over 50% plus free shipping on ProVia's introductory package at proviahair.com/Walsh. Every package includes a full 60-day supply of ProVia serum for daily use, plus the ProVia Super Concentrate for faster, more noticeable results. And every order includes your choice of free gift right now at checkout. ProVia works guaranteed or 100% of your money back. Don't wait. Order now and save an extra 10% and free shipping at proviahair.com/Walsh. That's proviahair.com/Walsh. Of course, it's impossible to believe any of these scenarios, or at least, well, I'm not going to say it's impossible to believe because, it is technically possible. Look, anything's technically possible. She could have told me that she was walking through the halls of Congress and she saw somebody levitating, off the ground. It's like, it's technically possible in the sense that anything that's logically possible is therefore possible. In fact, well, that's actually even more because that would bring to mind demonic possession or something. I would probably readily believe that. So maybe that's not the best example to prove my point, but you get it. So, but anyway, are any of these scenarios, here's the real question, are any of these scenarios remotely close to as likely as the far more plausible scenario that Barbara Lee just made it up? So you've got all these, it could have been it could have been a security guard from a time machine from the past. Could be, it's possible. Time machines could exist, maybe. Could be a staffer who just decided, I'm going to ruin my entire career for no reason. Could have been a congressman whose identity she's protecting because she's just so kind. Or it could be that she just made this up. And of course, that's what's happening. That she made it up. None of this happened. She made it up. So what could possibly, the more interesting question, the question of whether or not that happened is not interesting because we all know that it just flat out didn't. I'll bet $10,000 right now that it didn't happen. But the more interesting question is what could possibly possess her to randomly invent this racist incident that definitely didn't happen? That to me is the interesting question. And I think the answer is that it's a reflex at this point. Like on the left, inventing stories of victimhood is instinct. It's reflexive. It's like a hiccup. Okay, it's this almost involuntary physiological response. They blurt out race hoaxes without even thinking about them. That's how severe the self-victimhood obsession has become. It's how ingrained their desire for victimhood is. And that's why it must be great, to be a black person in a room full of libs. It's got to be great. I'm a little bit jealous, I have to admit, because the trolling opportunities are tremendous. Because if you're a black person in a room full of libs, you can make up any story that you want, and they will accept it at face value with no further questions, which is amazing. But you could walk in and say, "Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I was just assaulted by a group of 5 racist Nazi ninjas on the way in here." And fortunately, I was able to fight them off with my superior swordsmanship, which I learned from my years studying martial arts in Japan. And yeah, it's okay. No matter what you say, they'll accept it, and without any follow-up questions at all. And it's possible to do because this kind of this self-victimization, whether it's racial, whether it's race-based self-victimization, it's gender-based, sexual orientation-based, whatever it is, it's just reflexive. Like I don't even. It's interesting to think like did Barbara Lee go into that interview having already invented this fake story and planning on saying it? That's possible. But I also think it's quite possible that she didn't even plan on making that up. She just did. She could hear herself making this up while she was saying it, and then she said, "Okay, I guess this is what we're doing," because it's such a reflex for them. Pretty amazing. It's also, you look at, you go on Twitter or in fact, Caitlin Collins tweeted out this video herself, obviously in a non-skeptical way, and I mean every single comment is from people saying, "Oh, did he yell, 'This is MAGA country' too?" Barbara Smollett, like that's like every comment. Like nobody believes this stuff anymore. No one falls for it. And it also shows you how out of touch the media is, that like Caitlin Collins, if she had any kind of awareness, she would know that most people are not going to believe that nonsense. And so she wouldn't tweet out the clip. She would rather just pretend it never happened because it's embarrassing. But Caitlin Collins, lives in a world where people still buy this garbage. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.